Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. Welcome everybody to today's episode. I'm blessed to have a client come on as a guest, Chris Overcash. He works for CRB, and we recently finished a successful attic conversion/renovation. Chris, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
I really appreciate you coming by. I think other than a friend turned client, you're the first client to actually just come on to talk about their project, which is really exciting for me. Kind of putting myself on the chopping block, but I'm confident in my work and the end product to have you here. So I just want to thank you again for hiring me and then coming on the podcast. I appreciate both. What is CRB? Let's start there.
Yeah, sure. CRB, it's Clark, Richardson, and Biscup. We're a construction management engineering firm for the life sciences industry. We design and build pharmaceutical and biotech facilities that manufacture vaccines and medications.
And what do you do for them?
I am a mechanical engineer. I primarily specialize in plumbing and fire protection design, and I also do some occasional HVAC and utility design as well. What we would consider dirty utilities, mainly plant-type utilities, steam, chilled water, heating hot water, things of that nature.
Okay, and you're on the design side strictly, or installation, or both?
I'm on the design side strictly.
Okay. Do you do site visits?
We do site visits, and we do construction administration, and we also have a construction services group that will do the construction management of the project. Perform similar as a general contractor would on a residential project. I mean specifically you. Me specifically, no, I am just involved in design.
Okay, you're not doing any site visits?
Other than to check on installations, work through any kind of conflicts or issues in the field, or if it's a renovation to assess any kind of existing field conditions. No, that's kind of my extent of what I do on site.
Gotcha. But even those little amount of site visits, and then obviously what you're doing in the design world, you right there are probably definitely a notch above maybe an average homeowner in terms of understanding what's going to happen when you're hiring and doing a renovation on your own property.
Yeah, certainly, absolutely. We've got to be, very very knowledgeable of, the whole construction process. As far as, what needs to be done first and the steps that you got to take to get to the end product. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
And when you say you're designing, you're dipping your toe in commercial grade HVAC and doing commercial plumbing. When I start talking to you about needing to tap into your house plumbing for a bathroom, it doesn't sound like German. It sounds like, okay, yeah, duh.
Exactly.
We got to do that.
Yep.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
Oh, the HVAC guy said we need this many BTUs. I know what that means. Like it must be, because there's plenty of homeowners, and this podcast is designed to help specifically them, who would just nod and go, oh yeah, we'll tap into the plumbing and the screw right with this wrench. And it's like, you pretend because you're trying to relate, but I've seen it as the one explaining it. The eyes gloss over and they nod and they don't know what the hell I'm talking about at all.
Yeah, exactly.
But you've got a couple notches, in that at least understanding of what's going on when we talk about a construction site.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up. My father was actually built houses, and so it's kind of always been in the family. So it was natural. I kind of ended up going in the engineering field.
Did you ever help him?
I did a little bit. Not as much as I probably would have liked, but yeah, I did get a chance to get out and help him some.
And now, are you like? Would you consider yourself like a handy person? Do you have like tools? Do you have a garage?
I do. Yeah. I definitely like to tinker.
Cool.
I definitely would consider myself, as handy as most, if not more handy than a lot. I'm definitely not what you call an expert by any stretch, but yeah, no, I definitely enjoy home improvement projects. I enjoy working on cars and things of that nature.
Oh, cool. Work on cars. Nice. Have you owned some really cool cars?
Yeah, in the past. Unfortunately, now with the young ones, some of that's kind of, I've moved on from it. But I used to own a race car.
What kind of race car?
It was
like a NASCAR.
It was very similar to that. It was a late model stock car that you would typically see at your local circle tracks. But I had actually upgraded that car to be fit to race on road courses. And I actually used to go to Virginia International Raceway a lot and drive up there. So it was a lot of fun.
Okay, so I am not knowledgeable on this. So real quick, to me, the circle track of NASCAR is paved road, and you just said to go from that to road race. So what's the difference?
Well, a road course is obviously going to have turns right and left. Road
okay.
circuit,
That's
similar
what that
to
means. Road circuit, like
yeah.
it's not just the bowl.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, isn't it the same paved road?
Yep.
But it means more realistic in terms of
So VIR's got they've got a few different configurations up there, but the main full course is 17 turns.
Okay. Are you into like racing is such a big word, but like things like NASCAR, the Le Mans race in France, the 24-hour. I only know of that from the Ford versus Ferrari movie with Bale and Damon. Are you into like Formula One?
Pretty much yes to all the above. I don't follow any of it as close as I used to, but yeah, I'm a big motorsports fan, so I do at least casually follow all of them still. I very much enjoy watching it on TV and even more so in person.
So I went from knowing, when it comes to Formula One, I went from the most likely not true stuff in the movie Driven with Sylvester Stallone to going with friends to Mexico City last year we weren't like at the race, but we were like in Mexico City for the Mexico City Formula One race.
Right.
And like the bar's full of all these T-shirts of the same guy because there's one dude who's like Mexican who's like the number 2 racer, and it was an amazing experience. And this dude who he admitted, he's like, I don't even really know that much, but compared to me, he's an expert.
Right.
And he's telling me about 3 different softness or hardness of tires and how they're hybrids now, and they judge the weight of how much fuel when they finish the race is like a deduction. So you want to basically, the expression was land the plane as you run out of gas. And I was like, that's counterintuitive. He's like, yeah, well, it's how they do it now. And they have these like supercharged hybrids that can like disperse more. And it's crazy. And I was like, this is complete. Like I ended up realizing I wasn't a fan because the more I asked, the more I realized that it's not an even playing field. Like Ferrari just has the most money, so they just win. Like they just have the most money, like AMG. It's a money thing.
It is. That is an unfortunate reality of Formula One. Is definitely the money teams, are toward the top of the pecking order, unfortunately. But
and I mean, I'm a Yankee fan, so I freely admit that like they're the equivalent in baseball. Right. But I feel like baseball still has enough of a things that equal out. Like that pitcher gets paid more money, but you still get to go up there and you get to give your best hacks at his best curveball. Like, so whereas like literally that one car could just simply be made of better parts and have the better driver and the better tires. And it's like, well, wait a minute. That's you no longer give somebody a chance. Like you got, So anyway, but there's my little like into motorsports. So okay, so to bring it back, so you've got some tools, got a garage, a little handy, but obviously this attic job was a little too much. So just a brief, a little description, like what kind of home do you have? When did you buy it?
Yeah, sure. We bought the home in 2016. It's a three-story home, but the third floor was unfinished. And we decided, of course, with interest rates finally going back up this year, we finally decided, hey, we need to go ahead and get this third floor done and lock in a low rate before they go up too much. And so we decided to go ahead and move forward to that. It's essentially a bonus room, a guest bedroom, and a bathroom.
Yeah,
upstairs.
Talk a little bit more about what you glossed over about the interest rates, because a lot of people don't understand, and honestly, I'm freely to admit I'm slightly fuzzy on it, like if you already owned your home, how did the interest rates come into play in your zone?
Yeah, so we essentially refinanced, and we did what we would call a cash out refi, and we wanted to do that again before those rates started going up. And obviously everyone saw on the news in the early part of last year that the Fed was going to start raising the rates, and so we wanted to try to lock in as good a rate as we could and go ahead and get the money out to take care of getting the bonus room done. And I mean, fortunately for us, home prices, as everyone's aware, have gone way up here. So,
yes.
The value of our home is, 50-75% more than what we paid for it originally. So,
and you still have a current mortgage on that home.
Yes, we do.
So you buy a home with a mortgage. The home goes up in value due to the natural area. And then you basically, did you go back to the same people who you had done the previous mortgage with?
No, we actually used a different vendor for this, one that my neighbor recommended. I have a neighbor that's a realtor, and he had some recommendations. And
I believe that's how you got my info.
It was,
I had done a bid for a job that never worked out on his bathroom. Yeah. David?
John.
Yeah. Ugh, so many realtors. I wish I got that right the first time. Yeah. So you go to a different provider and, however you do it, maybe you shop some products or whatever, and you find one that's good for you before the rates go up. So now you've gotten, did that amount give you your budget for the project, or?
Yeah, we requested a certain amount. I mean, I had a number in my head,
okay.
And I tried to be conservative to make sure I had it covered. So we, they basically, what was remaining on our home that we owed, we took that, and then the amount we wanted to borrow, and that's what we financed.
Gotcha. Okay.
And for us, I mean, obviously it was well below the 80%, value of the home, so we don't have any mortgage interest or anything of that nature. So it worked out well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, literally, that sounds like it worked out well. Okay, so that takes care of, how you, in the short, that's how you afford this project. And I guess we kind of detailed the short answer of how you find me. You talk to your neighbor about a product, and about a loan product, and he also mentions that he has a contractor.
Yep.
So you give me a call, and I come out, and I know the first thing that we did was talk like the needs of the space, which, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if memory serves, the real need was
space for the kids.
That's right.
Like extra, you needed that playroom. The bathroom was a cool luxury, and the guest room was a cool luxury. But you were like, I need more space for my kids to go chill. I need a bonus room. I need a TV. I need to throw their toys up here, because like, you know, you were basically taken over a living space due to COVID that was not an office and turned it into an office.
Exactly.
It was getting tight.
Yeah, my wife's a school teacher, and of course they did the remote learning there that first year of COVID, so we were both there working. And
right, yeah. And it's not like you had a house with two completely separate soundproof offices. Nobody builds their life like this, because that's not the life we've been living for eternity. So all of a sudden, like, I don't know how you were doing it, but somebody was like, I've got the dining room, I've got the living room, like, don't talk at 10 to 11 or whatever. And it gets terrible, and your kids are there as well, like doing homeschool. So, you know, I don't have kids to like complicate, but it got complicated for me. So I can only imagine. Yeah. Okay. So that became a priority, and then started talking about, the bathroom, which became pretty easy when you were like, I need it to function, and I need it to look like this bathroom. And you showed me like 2 other bathrooms in your house, which were very nice, but anything but special. Right. Like standard tubs, standard showers, standard vanities, vinyl floors. Like, not, you know, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not doing, 20-foot glass panels, oversized glass tiles, anything that's, beyond Best Tile and Lowe's and stuff like that. So, exactly. Yeah. So, I don't remember exactly, any of the numbers or anything like that, but I start pricing this, and then, we run into a pretty big hiccup almost immediately with the HVAC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your, builder, or I guess you didn't talk to the builder when you bought that. You just bought a house. But the builder had, I guess, told somebody who told somebody in a rumor that the HVAC system, which the heating and air, for those who don't know, was sized bigger for your house than needed to accommodate that third floor when it was finished. Yep. Yeah. And that was just not true.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And to kind of frame it, so, when we bought the house, again, the third floor was unfinished, but they did leave a stack of sheetrock to finish it out. The plumbing was roughed in, and by roughed in, we mean the piping was all there for the plumbing. It was just a matter of tying in the fixtures, right? And I was also told that the HVAC on the second floor was sized to accommodate the third floor.
Yeah. In reality, the plumbing was, I'm going to use air quotes, there.
Right.
But
we did have to do a little work.
We did have to like rip up a sheet of plywood and do some finagling of the plumbing to get like the shower where you specifically wanted it.
Exactly.
It would have been not an actual great layout the way they did it.
Exactly.
So they did truly the barest of minimum of rough-in, but like we did not have to cut holes anywhere in your main living house to access pipes. Yeah. So in that regard, like it was pretty nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Electric wise was a breeze.
Yep.
Because plenty of, for people listening, unfinished meant you walk up to this attic and it just is open studs. There's no sheetrock on the wall. So you're looking at these studs, and then like even some of them didn't even have insulation because they were then attic chambers off of this finished area with doors, and that had the insulation. Yep. So there's like plenty of room to run stuff. But the HVAC was, in fact, that was just not true.
No, yeah. As soon as the mechanical contractor came over and we started talking, and he told me what size the unit was, and I just, from my experience doing HVAC design, I knew right away, no, this is not big enough.
Yeah. And then and then it just got more complicated where it became like any question of doing it, like, for lack of a better term, down and dirty without a permit was just was just thrown away. It was like, this is not, like, we need a permit. You need an entire new HVAC system either added or yours converted.
Exactly.
And so it was like all of a sudden the job got bigger and it got more complicated. It got more expensive.
Right.
I believe there was a worry at first. We did in fact come in under budget at the end of the day, which was super cool. So just to kind of detail how we went about this. So the first thing that had to be done was, because I don't like to be responsible for like certain decisions. I think I just gave you Kim's number to do some
Kim
drawings.
Hopkins Design. That's correct.
Yeah, and we're big fans of Kim Hopkins Design. Shout out Kim Hopkins Design. And she did blueprints, basically, for lack of a better term.
Kim was great. Really, really quick turnaround on that.
Yeah.
Very professional. Really enjoyed working with her.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, your design needs were low. You had a rectangle, and you needed like 4 walls put in it and some notes about R value and some notes about, you know, bathroom orientation and door swings.
Exactly.
You know, we were not, you know, there's no exterior work. She didn't have to worry about roofs and siding and pitches.
Exactly.
So it was pretty low key, but it was mostly like, you know, the layout, the door design, the bathroom layout. I was like, just do that with a professional. They're a little better at it than me. I'm happy to admit when I'm not the best at stuff. And you're going to need plans either way, mostly to get through the city.
Right.
Yeah. Which, again, became a difference of the down and dirty. Like, when we're doing it without a permit, I can be like, hey, is this big enough? Is this big enough? Well, let's just frame a wall real quick.
Right.
And like, with the tub will fit because we measure the tub and, like, you know. And, yeah, so when that got removed, we got Kim. Then obviously we submit for the permit.
Yep.
And I'm a little fuzzy on it, but I actually think we had a little blowback.
Yeah, I think they wanted a couple clarifications. One, they wanted clarification on the joist size, just to make sure they're large enough, to be load bearing, to basically build out up there and be more than an attic space, which fortunately they were.
And the windows.
And I think they wanted to make sure we had operable windows up there.
Yeah, and that they were big enough because
to get out, exactly.
Yeah, because they need to be of a certain. When you go up, they have to be of a certain square footage for like the fire truck ladder and bucket to get to, and a fireman to smash open with an axe and get in and out of the window to save you. That's where the code comes from. So they call it actually, the code is under egress in the book to make sure that it's a fire safety thing. The joist confused me a little bit, I guess maybe just because I laughed, because I was like, it was built out.
Right.
Like, we didn't blow a wall. We didn't blow the roof off and frame up. Like, this was already built. There was a real human door, a real staircase,
right,
to real space. Like, so I was like, do you think they just like let people walk up there telling like, you know what I mean? If they were built not to size and you were up there using it as storage instead of livable space and it broke, like, it'd be the same liability to me.
In my mind too, I agree.
Right. Yeah. But as we've earlier mentioned, we had to pop a piece of ply for the plumbing.
Yeah.
So we just measured that depth real quick, and they were like, you're good.
Right. Yeah. It worked out well.
So that worked out well. Then once we got our permit, we were off to the races.
Yes.
Yeah. So framing was pretty low.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure Ray only needed 2 days because he ran out of studs.
Yeah, I think he had to come back to just do a little bit of...
Yeah, because he just ran out of lumber.
Yeah, exactly. So otherwise, he could have had it framed in a day.
Yeah, it was pretty low key. A half wall next to the step became a full wall. We added a bathroom wall and like 2 door headers, and nothing load bearing.
Exactly.
Which is exactly what it sounds like, people. Like, there was no load being supported by these walls. The structure existed. So these were called parapet walls, which we just are for solely dividing rooms. Exactly. They are for privacy.
Yep.
You guys might be hearing Willie's tail going nuts. we have a third member in the studio, Willie Bear, the orange hammer puppy. Once we got it framed, I remember electrical. We were going to use one electrician before the permit, and then when it became a permitted job, he was like, I'm really a handyman without an electrical license, so respectfully, I can't do the job legally. Physically, it's the same job.
Exactly.
So, but we had to switch to my licensed guy, and shout out to Julian Bick.
Yes.
He did a fantastic job.
Wonderful electrician.
Yeah, I think he did even under budget. and did one or two extra things.
He did.
He really went above and beyond and was just like a joy to oversee. And it sounded from all of our texts that he was just a joy to be there working with no ease, or all the ease rather.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. No, Julian was great.
Yeah. And then I think a lot of our hiccups then move to HVAC, which again, we start the job with HVAC hiccups. So it's kind of like the story, the foreshadowing or whatever. So the first thing that comes to mind is you had a choice, and I believe that prices were relatively similar. You had a choice between add a couple ducts to what you have,
right,
and take your giant AC and replace it with something bigger to do your whole house,
right,
or put in basically a complete separated system just for this new area that you're doing upstairs. Yep. And once you went to option B, well, I guess I should ask you, did you have, because I believe the price was relatively the same. Did you have a driving factor? Because you do HVAC a little bit.
I think the driving factor for me was by going with a separate unit that allowed me to zone the third floor separate from, if we had combined that, say we had upsized the unit that was serving the second floor, made it larger for both floors, well, we'd still only have one control point, one thermostat. So, and then it becomes a question of where do we place that thermostat? Do we put it on the third floor, or do we leave it down on the second floor where the bedrooms are at? So, for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. Let's go with a separate system. That way we've got separate control, independent control for the third floor.
And do you have, you mentioned in that spiel, you only mentioned the second floor versus saying the house. Do you have a separate control for the first floor?
Yes, we have.
So your home already has two separate systems. I actually don't think I didn't know, or I simply just forgot that already.
No, it does. There's a system for the first floor and the second floor, and now the third floor.
So you just have a zone. You have a system per floor.
Exactly.
Now. Gotcha. So in that regard, it became almost a no-brainer. I forgot about that.
Yeah. The only unfortunate thing for me on the third floor is we didn't have enough space to utilize a standard full-size air handler, just because there wasn't space to put it in the attic and maintain the access you would need to, if a tech was to come out and work on it, or changing filters or any of that kind of items. So what we ended up going with was a mini split system.
Yeah, the split ductless system.
Yep. So there's an outdoor unit, and then we've got two individual indoor head units that just they mount on the wall and they free blow directly into the space. And we've got one in the bedroom and one in the bonus room.
And they have separate remotes.
And they both have separate controls, so it's nice. So you can kind of control the bedroom or the bonus room independent from one another. So essentially, we got 4 zones in the house now. And
with that, I mean, I don't need to pry into your life, and it's too personal. Just say so. But I'm assuming that upper room being a guest room with not a lot of guests in the middle of COVID is not on that much.
No.
You can just save that money and really only condition the playroom, where you call it.
Right.
Yeah. So you can save a little money by just conditioning a little less space at a time, plus the new attic with the spray foam, very efficient, very tight.
Right.
Yeah.
The only negative I've seen from the mini split, being that we couldn't go with a conventional style air handler. With the conventional style air handler, you'll either have an electric heater in it, a supplementary electric heater, or if you have a gas furnace, you'll have gas heat in there. That tends to be real helpful when it gets really cold outside, which we did have that real cold spell here recently. The mini split is just a conventional heat pump only. When it gets really cold outside, those become relatively inefficient. So that's a time where you would want to have that supplementary electric heat or that gas heat to kind of help with those low temperature nights and days.
Yeah.
So heat pump tends to run a little more. It's not as efficient, so it can get a little more expensive. But fortunately, it's the third floor. Heat rises. So
I was just going to ask, in your real life house, was that actually an issue with all the heat rising?
No, we didn't have a problem maintaining the set point up there. Not at all.
Yeah.
So
gotcha. Yeah, I assumed that my unit was struggling, but I honestly wouldn't have known because I woke up cold and walked out to my living room and turned on my gas fireplace with the remote, and I was like, I need 5 degrees immediately in this house, and obviously that helped take some of the pressure off of my between you and me and listeners, very aging, needing to be replaced unit that's at my house right now. Yeah, it's original to my home, so it's over the 10-year mark, and very much my last service guy was like, you're getting 80%. So I was like, how do I get 20% more efficiency? And he was like, replace it?
Yeah.
I was like, no. There's got to be a fix. He's like, no, there's not a fix. Like there's no fix. Like your ducts are undersized. Like this system was good when it went in.
Right.
Now it's 12 years old. And I was like, oh, crap. Like I don't have the funds to just like swap all that out right now when it works. He was like, yeah, wait for it to die. He literally told me that. He was like, wait for it to die. He was like, just hope it doesn't die, and it's 11 degrees out. Yeah. And I was like, well, I more hope it's not August. That's exactly. More, because like I said, I got that gas.
You can always cover up more, use the gas. It's hard to cool off.
Oh, my God. Here with the humidity, for sure. Yeah, dead August would be brutal. Yeah. So we go with the mini splits, and once you wanted the separate control of the third floor, it was almost the pieces then fell into place. Like, exactly. Okay, there's no room for a handler, so what do we do? Do you want to frame out a closet? No. Well, then we got to go split Douglas. Okay. Yep. Well, we're going split Douglas. Where do you want the heads? Well, they design, ceiling ones, but really they're the better, cheaper ones go on the wall. Okay, do you want it here? There's only so many spots, and, then where does the outside unit go? Well, put it next to the other outside units, because why not? And then, okay, well, if it's there and we got to run up there, we got to run the wire up the wall and put it in a gutter or whatever they did. They put it in conduit.
Put a nice false gutter on the outside to conceal the refrigerant piping and and the wiring.
Yeah.
And so and it looks nice. I mean, it doesn't look out of place.
Yeah.
And honestly, you wouldn't even notice it unless you were looking for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a good enough relationship with Maynard that we're gonna point out the faults. Like, why not? We're gonna detail the whole thing. Like, I respect Maynard. I continue to use Maynard. I've had David Clark on this podcast, and I will continue to positively shout him out in a positive way. But there was definitely an issue with their scheduling. They were not Johnny on the spot with you or me.
Yeah.
And it became frustrating.
Yeah, that was my only, and I hate to even call it a negative because, I mean, overall the experience was so positive.
But we're going to nitpick it for listeners because we're detailing it.
The most important thing to me in the construction industry, and I try to live by this too as an engineer, is communication. Even if somebody's calling me to give me bad news, hey, we've got delays, can't get this part until such time. I'd rather at least have that communication, that open line of communication back and forth. The worst thing to me is the no, lack of return phone calls, emails, or it's taking forever. I understand everybody's busy. You might not be able to get back to somebody right away. It's not like I'm expecting a text or a phone call within the hour, but that's the thing that's the most important to me, and I respect, and that was honestly one of the, shout out to you, Corbett and CRS. Your communication was exceptional.
Oh, I appreciate that.
You always got back to me really quickly. Like I said, even if it wasn't necessarily positive news, you always got back to me, and that's something I really appreciated. Kind of always kept me in the know. I knew what was going on. I wasn't left sitting there wondering. So, and again, like I said, in my line of work, I'll have contractors reach out with me with RFIs or submittals, and, they appreciate the same thing. They appreciate me, corresponding with them and getting back to them and letting them know what's going on. Likewise on the owner side,
I was going to say, it's like a little bit of a compliment to you also, but like you from the get-go were very much like, hey, this is a small job. Too small for you.
Yeah.
And I recognize that you're going to have your framer squeeze this in between framing a whole month project. And I was like, you're so spot on, but I still think we can do it.
Yeah.
And all of my subs were that way. Julian was, He's doing a commercial building downtown Durham right now. He's doing 14 floors or whatever. Like, and he was like, yeah, I could squeeze it in, but give me 2 weeks. I was like, cool. That's literally all I need to know. And he stuck to the 2 weeks. And I told you the 2 weeks. And you were like, great. We're still moving it along.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
But you were very aware of that and understanding of that, because it frustrated even me, because it's my job and I'm trying to move it along. But, when the spray foam guy is like, we used to be 2 weeks out. Now we're 3 weeks out.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, well, I should get you on the schedule then, even though we're not officially ready. Like, I don't really want to schedule you and then wait 3 weeks for it to sit there, so, but it just, it was equally complimentary getting that understanding from you, like squeezing in a relatively small gig, knowing that it would be, piecemeal like that. It just made that stress a little removed for sure. Yeah. And as you said earlier, like, it's not really a negative for Maynard.
Right. No,
they delivered a perfect product for the agreed upon money. And
they did.
The head broke. They replaced it.
Well, it was actually a line set, a flare connection issue between the line set and the head unit.
Okay. Well, let's detail that then, because the project was done to both of our knowledge.
Right.
And then actually, I think, to the worst possible dice roll, it was like 2 days before Thanksgiving or a week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was right
or
around
something.
that time, yeah.
And you were like, come on, man, like, this was done, like, all done, and now it's malfunctioning out of nowhere. And I was like, I don't even know what to, like, I could come over and sympathize.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
I was like, best I can really honestly do is call Maynard.
But yeah, I pulled the codes, based on the installation and instruction manuals. I'm used to looking at those, obviously, from my job, when I do design work. But I pulled the codes and it said low refrigerant, which to me, I was like
it's brand new. It's
why would
possible.
the refrigerant be low? Yeah. And, Maynard did get a tech out a few days later, which, it was the holidays. So I understood that. But the only feedback I got was the head unit was bad. Which to me, I was like, well, okay, that's got to be, a random odd thing to have happen.
Like, and we're talking people brand new, thousands of dollars Mitsubishi, I believe.
A Daikin is the brand we ended up installing. Very similar.
But I mean, this was not secondhand. This is not used. Also, let's be clear, it could have happened. Like, I've gotten new stuff from Amazon that's broken on arrival.
No doubt.
Like we're, nothing is flawless, but we're just both kind of looking at each other like, seems like BS.
Well, yeah.
Just
and then,
a tad.
I was told it would be about later on, I was told it would be about a week to get a replacement, which seems suspect when generally the lead time on those things are 6 to 8 weeks. And it seems, suspect to me that they get a replacement that quickly. But ultimately it ended up being just it was a bad flare connection between the line set and the unit, which is fine. That happens. I wasn't upset about that. I was a little frustrated in that they were a little slow communicating some of that stuff. And then I honestly just kind of wish they would have said, hey, we've got to redo the line set connection to the unit. That's why it's leaking. I wouldn't have been upset about that.
And they could have also said, and by the way, we can't get a technician out for a week.
Yeah.
And you would have been like, that sucks. I've got Thanksgiving. The other one works. I'll live with it.
Right.
Thanks for the
And I would have at least known, what was going on, what was going to happen. And that's kind of what I look for and expect. I always got that from you. And, but that's the only negative thing I got to say, about that from working with them. Otherwise, they were very professional. They executed the work quickly. Everything's working great now. I certainly don't want to beat them up because
this is not beating them up.
Their obligations.
No, I still, like I said, we're doing this in just a full, honest breakdown of what happened. Maynard just did a job for me. I have they're 9.8 out of 10, and that's because there is no 10 out of 10. Like they're great. They do they warranty. A guy showed up on Christmas to get heat on for a tenant of mine.
Wow. Yeah,
Okay,
that's pretty good service
yeah,
right there.
that's what I'm saying. Like, and he charged me for it, and so he should, because it's on call Christmas Day.
Absolutely.
But he got heat for my tenant on Christmas, people. And for anybody living in North Carolina who's going to hear this weeks after, it was like 11 degrees.
Right, it's very
which
cold.
is very, very cold. Not for me, the New Yorker, but for North Carolinians, that is not okay. And no heat inside was obviously horrifying. And she's a renter, so she doesn't even know. All she can do is call me. But Maynard got there, boom. So, like, this is not, we're not picking apart Maynard. We're just being honest about the process. Yeah. So we kind of did Maynard's now full circle process, but back to the order of the project, HVAC was decided on the split head ductless system. So the rough-in is actually very minimal in that particular instance because by definition, mini split, the units on the wall, and ductless means no giant styrofoam tinfoil looking ducts for those who are like, what are these giant things in my crawl space? They're ducts for air. You had just these tiny little lines feeding the head unit that then is blowing your air.
Exactly.
Yeah. So rough-in, very simple.
Right. So you're literally talking about the pieces of equipment themselves, the wiring between them, and the line set, the refrigerant line set that connects the units, and a condensate line.
Yeah, and then I believe we had to have a framing inspection only to have the guy laugh. I mean, I don't know what.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure why that was required.
Yeah.
with no load bearing walls.
Yeah, I don't believe we failed.
No.
But I think it would have been the only project in my life that a framing inspection has passed the first time. Or actually, didn't he give us some crap about fire stopping?
Yeah, that's what it was. There was a couple of openings around some of the plumbing piping.
Because he didn't know we were spray foaming,
Yeah.
which doubles as fire stop.
Exactly.
So FYI, it doesn't double as fire stop anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Either the code changed. I don't know when the code like officially gets changed and then it officially goes into place. But between your job and, well, actually, no, he failed it on your job and we had to fire stop. So sometime between the last house that I like renovated into a rental property and your property, the code changed because the closed cell spray foam once doubled as fire stop.
Gotcha.
So I got to save a few hundred here and there
versus having to fire stop all
versus
the
having to fire
penetrations.
stop every little wire and pipe plumbing penetration.
Right.
You just be like, hey, I'm spray foaming. They're like, we're good. Okay, have a great day. But it changed. So I don't know. Either fires got worse or the foam got crappier or both, or there was something that a fire probably happened and they changed the code. That's usually why. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yes.
So yes, because I just failed a framing inspection like a week ago, and he was like, the framing's immaculate, Ray.
Yes.
But you have no fire. He was like, you have no fire stop anywhere. And I was like, yeah, I know. I'm spray foaming. And he was like, no, not anymore. So, like, cans and cans. Because I told my sub specifically, I was like, don't waste the time.
Right.
So my electrician was like, sweet. Because you know how many holes an electrician, wire through every single stud you got to do. I don't know. It's like every 8 feet you got to have some fire stop. So it became, but anyway. And so we fixed that in seconds. And we passed that framing. And then the fun part where you really see things change overnight is the spray foam.
Right.
Yeah. So we get MPI. Shout out to Scott at MPI. Still working with him. They do that in a day. Massive truck with the cans of whatever, and it looks like spray paint. For those who haven't seen those videos, they are mesmerizing. Oh, they really God. And these dudes in these giant white suits, and then they use these like weird electric samurai sword things to trim along the studs. It's so cool, and it's just like neat and tidy, and it truly, and you feel the difference. We were working in the summer.
Absolutely.
I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was North Carolina summer while we were doing
absolutely.
Most of
Yeah, and you could immediately tell a difference after it was done. Walking up there, it was so much cooler.
Yeah, night and day, literally.
Yep.
And then even though you lose a literal half inch, it then feels bigger with sheetrock.
Right.
Yeah, I still don't. I can't explain it, but everybody
Exactly.
agrees. It's like you look at this framed house and you're like, it's so big, and then you sheetrock it and you're like, how does it look bigger?
Right.
We lost a literal physical half-inch of sheetrock on all walls, and it somehow looks bigger. It's I don't get it. Maybe it's just the mental like satisfaction.
Yeah.
But Felix did a great job.
Yes.
Sheetrock and paint.
Yeah.
And then I believe we tiled the shower.
We did. It ended up they had the tile vendor or tile guys had
Charles.
Charles had some extra tile, and he was like, "Listen, it's only going to be X amount of dollars for me to get enough tile to just tile the shower. What do you think about this?"
Or the floor, the bathroom floor, in addition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah.
I mean, for that little bit amount of money, it wasn't. We were talking a few $100s.
Yeah, because he smartly bought like 2 extra boxes of
Right.
tile because they break or whatever, and also it might break 10 years from now, and you have 1 tile to replace it
Right.
versus having to So that's a standard thing. So all of a sudden, your attic grew by 2 boxes of tile extra. And then I was actually asking him about a vinyl floor installer.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Why don't you just tile the bathroom?" And I was like, "Because he wants vinyl. What do you mean? I'm doing what the client wants." And he was like, "FYI, I'm going to get you a number in a couple hours, but I could tile that bathroom, for like $400 or something." Because he was like, "There's 2 boxes. I need 1 more box, and I could do it."
Yep.
And I ran that by you, and you were like, "Done." Like, easiest change order of my life. Like, are you kidding me? It'll be done quicker. We don't have to order some special vinyl floor. Not that it was special, but we don't have to go to, buy a roll of that, patterned vinyl flooring that you glue down at Home Depot or whatever. And you were just like, easy, get it done. And then we're really like, finishing touches after we trimmed it out. We ordered you some custom doors from. Shout out to Talbert's.
Yep.
And Melissa H. She's been my supplier forever. I've been trying to get her to come on the podcast. But yeah, we got you some doors, pretty standard order doors. I remember, I think you and I freaked out because they deliver the doors and they're missing 2.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, "What? I'm showing an order form. What? What?" And I call Melissa and she's like, "Oh yeah, they haven't come in yet. Like we're going. It's all good. Like they'll be here in a week,
Yep.
and we'll, it's no extra for the separate deliveries." And I was like, "Do you realize the heart attack and my client and I had where we thought it was going to be another 8 weeks to order doors?
Exactly.
Like where? Because doors pre-COVID took 7 days, and now they take 8
pre-COVID.
weeks.
Yeah. Exactly.
It took 7 days. It took a week ish. Now they take 6 weeks. So I was like, "You don't get it. We're gonna have to wait 6 weeks to put these doors in to paint this one door." Like, but it was no big deal. I believe again, because of my foot, Ray took care of all the trim.
He did. Yeah.
And then I was able to do like the really small stuff. I'm recovering from a foot surgery, for those who don't know, but was able to do like the shower hooks and
some of the hardware stuff.
And then the one, like, I would say overkill thing that I'm really glad we did was that glass shower door.
Right.
Where you were just like, "I don't want to do a curtain, and my glass guy is so nicely priced." And Jason, he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, he did.
In a day.
Yeah. Really fast.
Standard, give me a deposit. I get the glass in 3 weeks, and then it takes a day. And then sure enough, boom, boom, boom. And then for those listening, you're going to be like, "Why did you guys do it this way?" I didn't want to deal with the carpet, the final piece of the project.
Right.
I simply don't put carpet in anything I do. So I looked at you in full disclosure and went, "I'm going to go to Home Depot."
Right.
So you might as well go to Home Depot because it costs me money to go to Home Depot on your behalf.
Right.
I've got to charge you for that because otherwise I lose money. Like, it's just the reality of the life.
Absolutely. Your time is money. I mean,
it's not a surprising thing. It's just, I'm just detailing the facts of like, well, I'm going to go take pictures of the Home Depot carpets and send them to you. You might as well go, or you and your wife go and pick one. So when I handed you a turnkey product, which was in fact a turnkey product, if I remember, almost $11,000 under budget, something like that. It had no floor except for a very small amount of finished tile in the bathroom.
Yep.
So for people who are like, this is not a turnkey product, it was what we agreed upon.
Oh, absolutely.
But not a turnkey product.
I mean, the only thing it lacked was the carpet.
Literally.
The carpet.
But I mean, it even had the baseboard set up for the carpet.
Exactly.
Painted walls. And literally the carpet guys came in, and you said one guy did it in
he was
like
phenomenal.
5 hours or something. The whole thing. And like boom, boom, boom. Like it was nothing.
Yep.
Yeah. So it would have just been, a yet another markup. So in reality, it was a way for me to just like, I don't really want to be responsible for the carpet, and I'm just going to save you that markup. I made my money on the job. Still, we came in well under budget.
We did.
You were kind of shocked. I was like, hey man, here it is. And I gave you a pretty detailed receipt. I was like, here it all is. Here's the money I made. Like I still, everybody got paid. This is so, so like overall it was, a pretty successful build.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We were very happy with it. I mean, like I said, we were very happy with the entire process. You were great to work with. Always very communicative. Got back to me quickly. Let me know what was going on. I never felt like I was in the dark. And I mean, that was just like the awesome sugar on the top when it came in well under what you originally had quoted in the end. It made it, all that much of a better experience. I couldn't speak more highly of you and your team, and certainly would recommend you to anyone moving forward.
Well, I really appreciate those kind words, and I hope I didn't give you too much homework. For those who are listening, Chris did have to do some stuff. It's not like you can't just hand me a check and say make it happen. Like you have to pick. There's actually quite a few things. So you had to pick like light fixtures.
Yep.
We went over with my electrician. You wanted recessed, so that's easy. You tell the electrician recessed. They're smart enough to know this room needs 4 or 6, how big, whatever. Everybody does LED now, but like the fixture over the bathroom sink, that's a fixture. He puts in a wall. He puts in a wire in a box, but you
still have to select.
You've got to select it, because between you and me, if you just say I don't care, which you may not have for the third room, guest room, bath, but the chances of me buying one and you not liking it are higher.
Exactly.
Obviously.
Right.
If you buy it.
Yeah.
And it's the same amount of money.
Yep.
It's the same $80, $40, whatever it is. The fixture had to get bought.
Right.
Things like the vanity for the bathroom.
Yep.
You can tell me 32-inch, but there are 3,200 styles.
Exactly.
And 8 different colors with 27 different knobs.
Right.
And 4,700 different sink types and faucet types. The mirror that goes on the wall. I'm going to hang it for you. No problem. With a better quality anchor than comes with it, because that's what I do. I bring my own wall anchors. But you got to buy the mirror, or at least send me the link. You know what I mean?
Right.
The tile.
Yep.
We'll pick it up at Best Tile, but you got to pick it.
Yep.
You got to decide it.
Yep.
We'll measure the square footage, but to know how much to buy. But
paint colors.
This one was easier because we matched your existing, but the trim around the door, the trim around the floor, the baseboard, when I redid my bathroom, it doesn't match my house. I chose to do something different for my own personal, in that case, I was the client and the builder. I didn't have to discuss it. But if you had said just do it, I may have done what I like.
Right.
And the craftsmanship would have been the same, but you would have been like, I don't want a modern 1x4. I want a detailed Victorian with this detail. Well, we got a special order that, the knobs in the vanity. I'm trying to think of other things that the carpet, obviously, even if I had done it, you would have had to pick, color, feel, softness, fuzziness, things like that. I think that might be the whole list
for that one.
Yeah.
So it was a relatively straightforward.
Yeah, it's a relatively straightforward list.
But still, a lot of choices and things that had to be made. So, which hopefully some owners or most owners will enjoy that, kind of like I did. It gets you opportunity to get involved in it and pick some things out.
You'd be very shocked how much stress that induces, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah, because there's a few things going on. So one, there's an overwhelming amount of choice.
Yes.
In life, in every aspect. But if we're talking about construction, there's an overwhelming amount of choice. And honestly, even if you picked one store, there's still an overwhelm. If you're like, I just go to Home Depot, there's still 2,800 knobs on their website. Or even in store, there's an aisle of just hardware for kitchens, for just the knobs, just the pulls.
Yeah, that's true. It can be overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming. And a lot of people have different ways of making life choices. And some people can't visualize to save their life. I did a project, Jeremy Stallings, he's been on the podcast twice. And I'm such a huge fan of him and his wife, but she couldn't make decisions to save our life. We had to aggressively be like, your deadline for a decision is now tomorrow.
Right. Oh, wow.
What happens is almost irrelevant, but if you don't pick,
we can't
order.
Right.
It won't get here. Sorry. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's there's a moment where it's you now have to decide, is it bronze? Is it chrome? Right. It's a lot of doorknobs, but we gotta buy them.
Yeah. You've hit that critical date where we need a decision.
And
we're going to meet schedule.
Yeah. Or a worse, people are like, doorknobs, go to Home Depot and buy doorknobs. If you don't like the color, replace them. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Kitchen cabinets, you got to pick a finish. Harder to replace.
Right.
Expensive to replace.
Right.
Time consuming to replace.
Exactly.
You buy a $7,000 kitchen package and you hypothetically are like, that's too dark. Okay, well, now you got to give it to Habitat and then buy a $7,000 kitchen that takes 12 weeks.
Exactly.
Again, this is a big deal depending on your tax bracket. For
Absolutely.
most humans I know, that's not acceptable.
Yes.
You got to pick the right color
or
be happy with the color.
Right.
So she just couldn't close her eyes and visualize 3 different colors. She was like, I don't know, we got to see it. And it's like, well, we can't build you a kitchen in 3 colors.
Right.
We could maybe make a rendering. I honestly don't even know how we got her to pick. The kitchen is flawless now, just for the record. The finished kitchen is amazing. But it is a huge problem for some people.
Absolutely. I could see that. Yeah. Now that you mention it, it definitely is a lot of choices.
Yeah. It seemed to be relatively easy for you. And if I may say, you had the existing bathrooms in your house.
Yeah. And I kind of tried to use that as a guide. So that kind of narrowed a lot of it down.
Yeah.
And even at that point, we couldn't find everything to exactly match. So I just my wife and I, that looks good. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So.
But it seemed to very much not add Corb, I'm going to need 2 more weeks because we can't decide. No, you guys were like, okay, we found one. It's good. It's in the garage. It can stay there for a month until you're ready for perfect. Great. That was the most ideal version of how it would go. So, kudos again to how you guys operated, but
it can
be tough.
We wanted to make sure we were ready when you were ready. Cause we kind of spoke about earlier, this is a smaller project, you're trying to kind of squeeze this in. Some gaps, so, we wanted to make sure if you needed a vanity or you needed a light fixture, or you needed, whatever it may be, that it was there and ready for you when you were ready.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to catch those gaps, when they were available.
And that's how we were able really to not sacrifice any quality was your ability to be I can recognize this 1 month job taking 4 months,
right?
Because and no quality will get skipped because obviously there's that saying, it's do you want it good, do you want it fast, do you want it cheap? Well, pick two,
right? Exactly.
So it was you got good and, dare I say, cheap.
Yes.
But it was not fast.
Right.
And that was like, well, you were like, I don't really mind.
No,
you know, I've got 3 bathrooms. We're not demoing one.
Right.
Or however many. I don't actually know.
Yeah.
And it just, you know, so it worked out. But that was definitely the way, at least in my head. I was like, well, how do I get my best guys here? You know, because I have more than one of almost every trade.
All of them,
yeah,
sure.
and we could have gotten lower quality in almost all of the trades faster.
Right.
But did we want that? No.
Right.
So yeah, so I think it did work out pretty nicely. But yeah, I mean, you were a pleasure to work for, and let me know when you need another job.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And yeah, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Not everybody would detail it and tell me the truth, and yeah, so just, you know, thanks again, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, thanks, Corbett. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, bye everybody.